What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? We are here. Another episode.
Yes.
Of the Mocha Message.
Thanks for coming back. We appreciate y'all.
We love to sit down on the couch with y'all. You know, we ain't really not on the couch. Whatever. So for those of you who are new to joining the Mocha Maven crew, my name is Shani.
And I'm Jackie.
And you are listening and watching the Mocha Message.
Yeah.
So today, I want to talk about, and it's kind of funny because we started out, fully, like you couldn't see us. We were all just like an audio only podcast. And so today's topic is going to be all just about using your voice.
Yes.
And, I think I'm just go ahead and start it off like that. But I think starting like as a Black woman, I think we got to get a double whammy when it comes to using our voice, right?
Oh, man. Who are you telling?
Culturally, women tend to get ignored a lot more often than not when they're trying to speak up on certain aspects of whatever they have to say. And then even in the Black culture, there's that whole, be seen, not heard mindset that a lot of us grew up with. So, as a Black woman, it's just like we kind of grew up not
being silent.
Really, not ever really being able to feel safe speaking up. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, we got to dive into that. Because that's one of the main premises of our podcast, right? Right. To use our voices to elevate Black women voices, to use a platform. So I think, that's perfect. So of course, society, and y'all right, sick of me always blaming the internet and the society on things, but that's just the reality of where we are.
Yes.
So with societal upbringings and transitions into from when we were kids, right, into where we are now as adults, how do you feel just the silencing of our voices have evolved from when we were kids up until where we are now as adults, how that has carried out throughout different phases of our life?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I would honestly say for me, a lot of that stuff is hard to unwind as an adult. I mean, I know for sure I always have this fear of being seen as loud or angry or aggressive. So, I feel like I hesitate a lot to kind of speak up or speak my mind. Maybe even just a what's the point mindset of okay, well, if I say this, is there really going to be any sort of, am I going to be heard? Is there going to be any sort of action that comes from it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to even for me. And I know that we have this podcast where we elevate voices, and I love to, look up to Black women who really speak their minds and say what they need to say. But it's still with all that hard to just kind of unwind what came as a kid. So I don't know, man. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, I feel the phase as I'm growing, as a full blown adult, right? The phase is you're either learning something or you're unlearning something constantly.
That's a good point.
And I know a lot of from childhood just carrying over into adulthood. Mm-hmm. At my last job, it was right before things got hectic.
Yeah. Good word.
Yeah, right. It's right before things got hectic. Mm-hmm. And there was a fear of retribution or punishment for being withheld certain awards or certain
maybe promotions or anything.
Promotions, all that kind of stuff, different forms of compensation.
Yeah,
and if I speak up, what's going to be taken away from me, or what punishment do I have waiting for me on the other side?
Right.
And that's kind of where some of the contention came in, because I was you know what? Forget it. I'm gonna say what I want to say anyway. And then it was just next thing you know, I'm being pulled off this committee and not, invited to this particular meeting and stuff like that. And I was oh, that's how it is. But it's worth it. It's worth it in the end. And I'm wondering like how younger me would have like responded had I known that. Like had I known like, you know what, I might get a whooping, but at least I got out what I needed to say. Like what I have to say is important, or whatever. But
that's facts. That's facts. And when you mention like the job, it honestly made me think about kind of, and I saw this a lot more when I was in the office and like, you know, we would all have meetings and stuff in person. But I kind of feel like, and maybe it's just my perspective or my experiences, it seems like a lot of times when women feel like they're ready to speak up, it's because we have like what we consider a full and complete answer. And meanwhile, like John and Steve over here, they just kind of start a sentence and
spitballing,
you know, like and it's fine because they have that confidence to be like, yeah, whatever I say is going to be taken seriously. It's going to be heard. You know, we can make, you know, future actions based off of this. But it's like, why do we always feel like we got to come with the complete right answer? It's been thoroughly researched, tested. You're coming for me. You're just to even, you know, feel worthy. Like that is very discouraging, like in a workplace. Right. And, you know, for somebody, whether you started, you know, you're at the beginning of your career or further along, like that's frustrating. And that just, it does lead to those kind of feelings that you have at work where you just kind of like, you know what, what's the point? Like, dang. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's a tough one right there. Yeah. It's like, I'm that person, right? Like I'm that person who has to have like all the facts, all the statistics, every article that I use to back it up. Right. Like, I have to have like the evidence. Yeah. And sometimes like it's better just throw things at the wall and like see if it sticks. Exactly. And if it's not perfect, we can tweak it. We can work with it. But at least, you know, you got it out there. But oh boy,
it's tough.
That one's no joke. That one's no joke, y'all. Yeah. So with that, like what part of your or parts of your life rather, do you feel were impacted by like different people speaking up or like setting that example for you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I can say anything from like seeing, you know, local Black women in church speak up against kind of that patriarch. I don't know how you say the word. Yeah, but like the patriarchy, like, and that vibe that you kind of get when you have those, you know, oh, well, the man is always supposed to be completely right and all that stuff. I've seen that in church. I've seen it in, you know, media, maybe TV, even fictional characters. Yeah. Like, I'm a big Shonda Rhimes girly. I really am. So like anything from like seeing Kerry Washington speak up in Scandal or like Annalise Keating, who was not the typical, you know, main character. And I feel like they had to really fight to get her to do what she did so well. But like to see her do that, all of that stuff. I mean, even if I think of real life, like career wise, I'm heavily involved in NABA, which is the National Association for Black Accountants. So we would always have like CEO panels and stuff like that. And just seeing Black women who are CEOs and they're telling their story about how they didn't stay silenced in corporate or in their career, like all of that stuff. I just feel like it really, really had an effect on me in, you know, different ways. So it's a whole combination, but you know, it takes a village, I say. Yeah,
I'm telling you, from people in real life to like what you're, you know, consuming and watching and listening to, all of that.
Yeah. Seriously. What about you?
Man, it's wild because as of recent, like I've learned so much from the students that I worked with at my prior institution, like
that Gen Z,
especially like the students. I'm telling you, like Gen Z don't play no games. Like they will speak up. You will hear them.
That's
like,
facts.
And a lot of the women on campus that were doing that were Black women. Yeah. Like, they were maybe 18, 19, 20 years old and they weren't pulling no punches. Like they were going to say what was on their mind. If they felt wronged, they were going to speak up. And I was just like, I was taken aback by it because I'm like, I'm supposed to be y'all's mentor,
right?
And yet I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you, which then like in turn made me, want to speak up and advocate because I'm like, I got people looking at me. Mm-hmm. I got younger Black women who are looking at me, who are counting on me. And then I was like, I got to come through because they showing out. Like,
man,
I'm telling you, man. Gen Z
ain't nothing to play with.
People used to play on and be like, oh, they're the Tide Pod eating generation. I'm like, they didn't grow up. Like, they didn't grow up and they're nothing to play with. Stuff, I mean, I'm talking about from like pay wage gaps. Yeah. Even if they'll just ask the question.
Right. Which is the first step. And
nothing
a lot
may be done about it, but they like, so why so-and-so getting paid more than me or whatever?
Right.
Like, rightfully so.
Child.
Sis, like, you're right.
That's facts.
You're so right.
That's facts. And it always makes me think of like, if you could think back to, little Jackie, like, is there ever any moments where you could have used
man.
somebody speaking up, whether it's inspiration, whether they're speaking up on behalf of you, like, it really makes you think. And I don't know, to me, like, I'm very excited that I think, future generations won't necessarily have that much of a roadblock when it comes to speaking up as we did.
Right.
Because they have, the Gen Z and it's kind of changing the culture. And a lot of times we're not just going with the standard like flow. Mm-hmm. We're asking questions. We're disrupting things that don't make sense or that are unfair or whatever. Like, it's inspiring to think that, if I'm looking back at how I was when I was little and, a little shy, a little slightly silent, I can think that future generations may not be in that same position. So it's really cool.
And I think what's wild about it is it's fair.
Yeah.
And I think like I was never like a disrespectful, rowdy child.
Neither, child. I was.
So I'm like, if I'm asking a question, like as long as it's communicated respectfully, like what's the problem?
Right.
What's the problem?
Right.
And like those things are warranted, to be able to question things. I think for the longest time we were just told like not to question.
Right.
Like, and why? Because questions lead to you finding your voice and speaking up.
Needs
so like,
change.
Child.
Let them know.
So like on that note, I think that leads perfectly into our Mocha message.
Yes.
Which, plain and simple, it's your thoughts matter, right? Like you have a right to speak up. You have a right to ask questions. You have a right to challenge the status quo because like, I think a lot of times I get caught up in like myself and my discomfort. Yeah. But you never know like what door that's going to open for other people.
That's facts. That's facts. Think about where we would be culturally if those Black women didn't start Black Lives Matter movement. You know what I mean? Like, that's disruptive. I'm sure they were scared, still are scared, fearful for their life, fearful for their families, all that. But think of the impact that it's had, the visibility that it's done. Like, you just never know.
Yeah, man.
Honestly, even if nobody else needs it, even if it's a small, maybe it's a work thing, maybe it's something in your household, your family, whatever, you need it. Okay. Like, for your own growth journey, for your own self-confidence, you need it. So
have mercy.
Speak up. Your thoughts matter.
Listen,
for sure.
I don't even know what to say. Like,
goosebumps.
That was it. That was truly it. Like, that's the episode.
Yeah.
That's it, guys.
So look, take it.
But like, seriously.
Yeah. That's all we can say.
Yeah.
For sure. So, sit on that. And we would love to continue this discussion on our Instagram. We have a whole bunch of, discussions, prompts, maybe a couple live videos up in there so y'all can have discussions with us. Give your thoughts. Tell us about your experiences speaking up or where you felt silence and maybe felt encouraged later on. We love to hear from you guys, for sure. So with that being said, we will definitely catch you guys at the next episode. thank you for all your support. Thank you for your likes, comments, shares. Thank you for telling a friend, and that friend for telling a friend.
Yes, that's how it goes.
Yes. So yeah, we'll see y'all at the next episode.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Peace.